Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan will urgently appeal a ruling which ordered government exempt certain public facilities from rolling power cuts. The High Court on Friday said that schools, hospitals and police stations should be spared from rolling load shedding. It found that government breached its constitutional duties, infringing on the right to healthcare, security and the right to education. Gordhan was ordered to take all steps reasonable, that is, to address the issue within 60 days. But the Public Enterprises Department says the judgment will have serious implications affecting efforts to protect the stability of the electricity grid. Let's get you the view now of the South African Federation of Trade Unions General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi. They were part of the group of organizations who went to court to force that action. Mr. Vavi, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. Give me then your first thoughts when you heard that government was indeed going ahead with this appeal.
Disgusted, very angry, disappointed, but we are not surprised, frankly. This government have allowed a situation where the future of our children is jeopardized by load shedding for the past 15 years, have allowed patients to die in hospitals, and have allowed criminals to raid our homes in darkness, and have allowed escalation of crime to the fact that, or to the point that we now have 82 bodies being picked up every day in our streets, and that we have 135 women raped every single day, and that 549 homes are raided. Most of the time, the criminals know and they have schedule of when and which suburb and which part of the township is going to be load shedded, and they start operating during the dark hours. 15 years, the government have done nothing about that situation. And when we, together with 17 other organizations, approached court in order to get justice for the victims of government's neglect and uncaring attitude, government then shows us a middle finger by appealing a decision that it should be celebrated.
Government says, and they say today in the statement from the Public Enterprises Department, that they're now going to appeal Friday's ruling because it would basically undermine efforts to protect the electricity grid, i.e. that by not, as has been argued in the past, not implementing enough stages of load shedding, that would pose a risk to the stability of the overall grid and put it at risk of perhaps even collapse, as has been argued in the past. Are you sympathetic to that?
Not at all. Not after 15 years of load shedding. Not with the knowledge we all have that it was this government that have plunged us in the situation we're finding ourselves in the first place. It is this government that received a warning way back in 1996, 1997 from the ESCOM executives that if they do not invest and revamp the power stations, we're going to experience load shedding in 10 years. And indeed, since 2007, we've been from stage 1 up to stage 6 or even more. They're hiding the fact that we actually began to hit more than just stage 6 of load shedding in the country. I mean, 15 years of doing very little to address the crisis of load shedding that they have created. They have created. 3 presidents have had to deal with the issue of load shedding without finding a solution to it. Who of those presidents were deputy presidents to one another and with a special responsibility to ensure that load shedding is ended in South Africa? Nothing have come out of those 15 years of load shedding. There they are now trying to appeal a very legitimate ruling by the court to try and protect the sick in the hospitals, the vulnerable at the police stations, and to protect the future of the children. And they're saying to us basically, we don't care because we in the cabinet are exempted. The ministers are exempted. They don't have to go through this winter. And today was basically the start of hell in terms of winter, cold, raining, warnings of flooding in Gauteng, and in darkness. Just imagine 10 hours of load shedding in Gauteng today when it is so cold outside.
Right.
It is as cold as the heart of the Minister of Trade Minister of Public Enterprises,
So,
who is deciding
on the 60 days, sir.
The face.
Right. I want to ask you about the 60 days because the court said that basically the Minister of Public Enterprises had 60 days to ensure sufficient electricity supply to spare schools, clinics, and other public buildings in that realm from the impact of load shedding. Do you think 60 days would be enough for some sort of temporary measure to be put in place? And by that I mean, for example, the rollout of generators at thousands of facilities, because taking, I understand, or isolating these police stations, hospitals, clinics from the grid would be a more technical process.
Look, the President addressed us in February. The Minister of Finance addressed us in February to say there is a new government program that will ensure that the people who can afford to put up solar in their rooftops will be given a subsidy, will be given tax exemptions. They can go to the banks and get loans to get those facilities at their own homes. It's now May, second week of May. We've not seen anything of that sort happening. All we are asking is, can you at least prioritize in that program the schools, the police stations, the clinics, and the hospitals? Can you show South Africa that you care about the crisis? Can you inject in your mind and in your system some sense of responsibility, some agency to want to do something drastic about what South Africa is about to be plunged into? The worst winter in the history. Cold, wet, and flooding still in May. This guy says basically we don't care. We have our electricity in our homes. We have been exempted. We won't exempt the poor in the public hospitals because our kids, our family members only see and hear that there's something called Baragwana, but not for themselves, for the poor. They have money to go to the private clinics. They have money to go to the private schools, and they don't need security in their homes. We pay for their security 24 hours 7 in their homes and in their blue lights that they are traveling with. And this is the statement that says, black people and black men, you are on your own, and we are insulated. We don't care damn about your plight.
Can I ask your indulgence on a separate issue? Saftu has been in the headlines, I'm sure you're well aware, as of the weekend. It's to do with your President Ruth Nhlokotsa's expulsion from NUMSA, one of your affiliates. Has a decision been taken by Saftu about what this will mean, what bearing this will have for her role as your president?
Well, we are meeting the national office bearers tomorrow evening, and we're more likely to call a meeting of the National Executive Committee. We are looking at the development that we've now received a letter from NUMSA advising us that they have dismissed the president. We've heard what the president is saying in public, including the fact that she's going to be appealing, and the National Executive Committee will then take the matters from there. I cannot comment any further now.
All right, Saftu, Zwelinzima Vavi, good to have your time, sir. Thank you very much for that today.